mixed up with you, I'd be the talk of the town, disgraced and disowned, another one of the clowns.
But you would finally live a little, finally laugh a little. Just let me give you the freedom to dream, and it'll wake you up and cure your aching. Take your walls and start them breaking. Now that's a deal that seems worth taking. But I guess I'll leave that up to you.
Well, it's intriguing, but to go would cost me greatly. So what percentage of the show would I be taking?
Fair enough, you'd want a piece of all the action. I'd give you 7, we could shake and make it happen.
I wasn't born this morning, 18 would be just fine.
Why not just go ahead and ask for nickels on the dime?
15,
I do 8, 12, maybe 9, 10.
Don't you wanna get away to a whole new part you gonna play? 'Cause I got what you need, so come with me and take the ride to the other side. So if you do like I do, so if you do like me, forget the cage, 'cause we know how to make the key. Oh, damn, suddenly we're free to fly. We're going to the other side. So if you do like I do, to the other side. So if you do like me, to the other side. 'Cause if you do, we're going to the other side. We're going to the other side.
Good evening, Dominica, and welcome to The Other Side every Tuesday evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. right here on the big station Q95 FM. We're going to present to you the views which are different from what you normally hear on a range of current event topics. Yeah? And of course, we bring some really interesting guests, some exciting guests, some fresh faces to Q95. So let all views contend as we dig deep and get to the other side. Welcome again, guys. This is Tanya, your regular girl. And of course, the guys on the panel, the handsome businessman in Dominica, Mr. Kenny Green, Mr. Sam Raphael. Yeah, they just watching me. What happened? The handsome was not a good word to use.
They sound like you want something.
It doesn't sound genuine.
I
I'm
want
sorry.
something. Yes,
Doesn't
everybody
sound genuine.
wants something in this life.
Okay, there we go. That's good.
Well, that's handsome.
She's not usually nice to us, Ken.
Excuse me. I am always nice to you guys.
That sounds strange.
And you'll have to. Everybody wants something. Everybody. Yeah, should I read the quote today, boy? I feel so, because today is going to be a day, guys, where we're going to, I guess, be very open with the topics. We're going to talk about past topics from on the show, as well as any current events that, are on our minds. So that extends to you too, I guess. When it's call time, you give us a call and you give your opinions, keeping it civil. And I guess I should read the quote now. That would remind us to be civil. Right, Sam?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's how the quote goes. I should like to say 2 things, one intellectual and one moral. The intellectual thing I should want to say to them is this. When you are studying any matter or considering any philosophy, ask yourself only what are the facts and what is the truth that the facts bear out. Never let yourself be diverted either by what you would wish to believe or by what you think could have been beneficent social effects if it were believed. Look only and surely at what are the facts. That is the intellectual thing that I would wish to say. The moral thing I should wish to say to them is very simple. I should say love is wise, hatred is foolish. In this world, which is getting more and more closely interconnected, we have to learn to tolerate each other. We have to learn to put up with the fact that some people say things we don't like. We can only live together in that way, and if we are to live together and not die together, we must learn the kind of charity and kind of tolerance which is absolutely vital to the continuation of human life on this planet. From Bertrand Russell, guys.
Thank you.
Every time I read it, I love it.
Great.
Yeah. So where are we diving in? Sam giving me a kind of cut. I don't know what's going on. Did I do something?
So
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
So are we doing this soapbox tonight?
You're on. You
yeah,
have
you have a
the
soapbox. I
floor.
feel anytime you say that, that means you have a soapbox.
You have
Let's
the
hear
floor,
it.
Kenny. This is Kenny's night tonight. Kenny, you
Really?
No, my
Oh,
night.
I like that. Let's- we're gonna
Okay, so
burn you.
so the the soapbox
Mhm.
is really a general appeal for containing emotions, and it's something that, especially those of us who have a chance to speak to people who ask us for their for us to be a reasoning voice on any topic, and all of us who are in any position of responsibility or knowledge get asked by people genuinely, not just for opinion, but to help them reason on matters that they don't understand. And it's important that we apply not just logic, but also that we apply discretion to the way we talk about things. And I'll give you perspective and an example for this, because it worries me that even in the left versus right, the he versus she, the versus culture that we develop, which politics is just part of and life is part of, that people say things that harm the overall identity of Dominica when they think they're harming someone else on either side. And I'll give an example over from the last 2 weeks for a couple of things. One, an item I heard on Q95 on the news, and another one which I heard on a show. So on a show the other evening with all of the hullabaloo with CBI, I heard a commentator, a respected voice to those who listen to this show and to this radio station, a respected voice, speak about the fact that Dominica lost visa-free status to Canada, its Canadian visa-free status in 2009. I would like to give the benefit of the doubt to that person for making such a gross error. But the context in which it happened was to frame a picture that Dominica for some time is being a rogue nation. And that was not just misleading, it was malicious. And the truth is, Dominica lost visa-free status to Canada in 2000 at the cusp of Rosie Douglas coming into power with the Labour Party. And the reason for this had nothing to do with CBI. I mean, it's been intimated that it had to do with the CBI and UWP, the previous government. But by coincidence, a few years ago in St. Kitts, and I can give the timeline, during the Caribbean Investment Conference, I met the Canadians. And they explained, and that has been proved by later events, that the primary factor for them in the visa-free status issue, not just with Dominica, but other countries, was of especially natural-born applicants who had gotten visas, absconding, and staying beyond the time. Their ratios, the United States, if you check on the United States immigration website, it actually keeps statistics by country. And if the statistics for a country remain overwhelmingly good, they then qualify for visa waiver. Dominica does not have visa-free status. And I would like to think that it is partially the same reason why Canada resorted to that measure back then, which is that a lot of people go over on holiday and never return. And that gets logged because they enter and they never return. That has nothing to do with CBI. In 2012, St. Vincent, who does not have a CBI program, lost its visa-free status with Canada for the same reason. In 2017, Antigua, who does have a CBI program, lost its visa-free to Canada as well. So there's no reason for someone basically coming on the radio and making such a statement that is so patently false. The other, which was very interesting to me, I was driving and I heard Q95 news, and there was a news item where someone came, and I won't mention the voice, the person knows who they are, mentioned that the reason that we were Dominica was trying to get the e-passport rushed into action with nationals, there's been a zeal to put that out there, is because it's known that crooks and criminals have Dominican passports, and that the authorities of other countries want to be able to track them, so they want the biometric passports implemented as soon as possible. Now that's on a news item for a national radio station.
You remember what the headline was? Because that's interesting to be a news item. I'm being well honest. That is a very interesting news item.
You can ask Richie afterwards. Yeah, I'm sure he'll know.
Richie.
But the point,
you wicked we. Woo.
but the point that remains is that was not just false. It was malicious, and then it serves no value, not for any political party or anything, because the truth is that the biometric access is something that every Dominican needs, because most of the access points into the global pathways for travel are moving over to biometric entry. So
was that a quote or something?
No, it wasn't a quote.
It was a quote that they said, this is the reason why we're going. They just wrote that in the news.
No, Richie didn't say it. The person came on and said
yeah,
it.
but the news is written. People don't just come and talk. The news is a written thing.
I'm wondering. They interview you and you say what you have to say.
So that's what I'm asking. Was it a quote from someone? Was someone, or did they play a voice? I want to know, was it something that was written by the media house, or was it that someone was recorded, quoted, saying this is the reason why we are trying to push the biometric passport?
I love the fact that you're trying to apply context to this.
Because I want to know.
Yes, but it was pretty clear to me that the inference directly that was being made was that the e-passport was being rushed because the government of Dominica were under pressure from international authorities to get it in place because crooks and criminals held Dominican passports. And that is not true.
But you still didn't answer me, Was it a quote, or was it that they just read the news? We are the passports are being published, and they just read the news.
No, it was the person, it was the president of the United Workers' Party who actually said it live and direct.
So they quoted that individual.
Yes.
Okay.
The person said it. No, it wasn't a quote from it. The person said it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I love the fact that you're playing devil's advocate.
I'm not playing devil's. I'm actually asking questions because I think it's very. You said it's a news item.
I'm in the middle of my soapbox. Huh?
So listen. Okay.
Right.
Sorry, I interrupt.
Okay.
I have that talkative way sometimes.
Yes, I understand.
I have to catch myself.
Yeah,
sorry.
But the point that remains is neither of those situations were necessary. In the political culture, you can beat up on the government, on the Labour Party quite easily on a range of different topics without trying to damage the reputation of the country. To me, it's actually easy. There are things that you can find. There's political holes everywhere in every political party that you can find room to beat up on them and still keep the integrity of the country that you two want to govern. To me, this is just common sense. But it seems to me that what has developed is this thinking that the government, the country, and the political party are so aligned that it doesn't matter who you damage in the process. So my soapbox is there are people who are relying on responsible, intelligent people who are in a position to dispense information to do so with a level of responsibility. And if we lose it, then everything done.
Kenny, let me ask you, since you because this is something that has become cultural, quite frankly. This has become cultural. There's the crooks and criminals. There's a thing with CBI, crooks and criminals. You've heard that, Tanya. Have you heard that before?
No. But okay.
I can ask my.
I mean, it doesn't sound that far fetched. Let's keep it real.
There are crooks and criminals.
That's the talk. That's yes.
That's the talk. Kenny, let me ask you, Ambassador, Minister Madwike, Mr. Monferrad, Mr. Corallo, what links do they have to the CBI program? Because the names are often mentioned as
Zero
links. Explain where they came from. Put some context. We talk about context in this because sometimes, people would link the CBI to all sorts of things for
Okay.
the express purpose of damaging the CBI program.
Okay.
And for the average Dominican out there, when they hear those names, they think of the CBI program.
Okay, so Ali Reza Monfared, Alison Maduike, Corallo, all of these diplomats who fell afoul of the law or whatever process post their appointment were all diplomatic appointments. So they were appointed as part of a process.
I'll be devil's advocate like my friend
Yes.
Tanya here. Be clear. They did not apply for CBI.
No.
They didn't go through the CBI process.
No.
So they had nothing to do with the CBI program.
Correct. No.
So, for instance, they were brought up on this famous CBS program with the opposition leader and Steve Croft, and they were intermingled with the shortcomings of the CBI program, which
Correct.
is what actually started to turn me around to say, wait a second, we can't destroy the country. The same thing you're suggesting. You can't destroy something so vital to the development of the country. And it is really factually incorrect to link them with the CBI program.
Actually,
This has happened successfully. They've been linked to the program. In the mind of the average Dominican, you say Montferrat, you think the failure of the CBI program. You say, Maduike, the CBI program. You say Corello. There were obviously errors. I'm not suggesting that they were deliberate errors, but they were appointed and they, at the end, ended up being nefarious characters. They were appointed to diplomatic positions.
Correct.
But they did not come through the CBI program.
Correct. And in fact, the AG at the time, Francine Barron, after the Montferrat incident, made a very, very important intervention. That intervention was in the form of a note that she issued, where she explained that it was a failing of the due diligence process on the diplomatic side because they did not employ the same due diligence as the CBI program. Because these people were not applicants for the CBI program because they were not paying for economic citizenship.
And for the benefit of the audience, the ministry that the CBI program falls under has nothing to do with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Correct.
There's no connection whatsoever.
Correct. But there's a greater issue at hand here, and that is the issue of accountability with regards to who takes the blame for certain people not coming up to scratch. And this is very important because it happens across the board, across many societies. Ali Reza Monfared wasn't picked up as some criminal. He wasn't picked up as someone who was doing bad things and appointed. At the time that he was appointed, he had a working Schengen visa and a working US visa. And he was the third highest awardee to Malaysia. The national awards, the highest award that a foreigner could have in Malaysia. So he was a man of credibility at that time. The point is that just like we have Alan Stanford in Antigua, a billionaire who was knighted by the Queen of England, who, by the way, was the man who started T20 cricket as a commercial venture internationally. It wasn't the IPL, it was Alan Stanford. Everyone was with Alan Stanford until they weren't. The same goes for Lawrence Dupree in Trinidad, who was the Clico, the president of Clico, one of the most powerful men in Trinidad, a highly regarded businessman, until he wasn't. Alison Maduike was the first female president of OPEC.
And then, yes.
And then, no, let me just explain something. And it's very, very important because it's happened in our local arena as well. And you cannot blame, for example, the UWP for appointing Earl Williams, the political leader of their party. And then when he absconded away from Dominica, you can't turn around and say it was UWP's fault
Appointing criminals.
that they appointed a criminal.
I so understand that, but I think it makes people think about due diligence. And is this just done when I come to you now and say I want this passport or whatever? I come to you and you give me a job. Is it that okay? I checked you out. You're free to go.
So let me ask
you. Do we not follow up?
So
is there no following up on these individuals?
So when you the due diligence programs, no matter what it is, can't predict the future.
Agreed.
Okay, so
agreed.
We talked about Ali Reza Monfared. If he got a US visa or Schengen visa, which he did, that means they would have done background checks on him.
Right.
The
Then
same-
and then and there.
Then and there. Now, the fact is, when do you choose to double check on a person? Do you double check on them after? Lawrence Dupree, no one knew that Lawrence Dupree was going to do what he did. It happened and it scaled out. Bernie Madoff.
Okay, but do you think there should be that type of process where we're following
it
up?
happens.
We're probably creating a list, we're checking up on, because this is something important. This is a passport. This is citizenship.
It happens, but Tanya, when you consider, let's come now to CBI. So since
but Kenny, stop. Wait a second. She asked a direct question.
Yes.
I think you can be clear with that. What is the practicality? Because it happens whenever news comes out that somebody has run afoul of the law. Oftentimes, these people may have been engaged in questionable practices. We see questionable because they're not convicted. They're not
Right.
but,
There's no
and they're
actual
moving
evidence
in.
or facts that they are criminals. Okay. I
And
get that.
in the cases of all of these, once the information came out as to the character of these people, they were let go.
But there are people who, for years, were just doing some really questionable
Like what?
things.
Like who? Like whom?
You all mentioned his name before. I don't know it now. You all know. Don't try that.
Ooh.
You all have mentioned that person's name before, and people have spoken about it.
No, but words matter. What's the name?
I don't have the name.
We want. Okay, so
I don't know if you all know it. Call me and let me know. Because
Call
I know that to back me up.
you're calling for your
Trini
squad.
would call
Yeah,
back.
yeah, you know. But I'm just saying. You know, I feel like you're all trying to take away from the fact that due diligence needs to improve.
Tanya, I can never take away from the
That's
fact
what I feel,
that
'cause I'm
no,
telling you-
but here then.
Okay.
Hear me.
All right.
I can never take away from the fact that you should keep doing more and improve due diligence. You should. But there's always a risk when you do due diligence.
Agreed.
And so we have to say, if something bad happens, how quickly do we take corrective action to correct it? And what do we put in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
I want to
What
answer-
was put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen?
Well,
and why
well-
isn't this happening now?
Well, what happened was that post Ali Rizwan Farid, that's what happened. The Attorney General announced that the due diligence for any future diplomatic appointments would align with the CBI program. And since then, nothing. There's been no other issue since then because they recognized that there was a gap and they fixed it.
They fix it.
Now, in the 27 years we've had the citizenship program, there is no history of crooks and criminals walking around with Dominican passports. And, you know, for people who want to listen to this, I want you to understand logically, if you are someone who's done something dodgy, if you have a bad history, if you have a criminal record, the last thing you want to do is to submit yourself to having your fingerprints done, to having due diligence done by 4 different agencies, to have the Interpol and also the GRCC, which, by the way, is sat on by the Americans in Barbados. The last thing you want to do is to submit yourself through that process.
But Kenny, who tell you we believe that?
You
Who
might
tell
not
you we
it.
believe that that is the process?
Who's we and what is the
I mean,
belief?
if-
The problem is that people believe things that are inaccurate, and that's why we're here to discuss. So
That's
you're
what we're
absolutely
saying.
correct. Because you believe something doesn't make it the truth.
Yes, and because you say something, it doesn't make it the truth.
But
That's
but
just how it is in the real world. So even though you're telling me that this is the process, why would I go and submit my? Probably they're thinking those criminals they didn't even have to submit those things.
But
They
Tanya-
didn't have to do those
Tanya,
things.
that's a
And
very-
that's why
That's a very good perception gap that you brought up there. But the fact is, the program wouldn't exist for 27 years. It wouldn't go from 50 plus visa-free countries in 2000 to 147 now because it was breaking the laws
Yeah.
of international security. So the average person who listens understands that. So then they start to think, well, what really is wrong? And the main difference between the political parties, not just here, but in all of the islands, because this is not a Dominican problem, eh, Sam?
But I know this is a domestic political
Yes,
issue
yes,
that
correct.
happens.
But what I'm trying
Every
to,
island has the same.
Has the same.
If you travel.
what the real core issue is on how money is being spent from these programs. That's where the political issue really sits. But instead, what has happened was that people attack the very program itself on the basis that the program is indivisible from the government and the political party that's in power. I understand that logic. But when the program is attacked in this way, it makes it harder for those people who want to come in and govern to inherit the same thing and to pick up the scraps of the relationships that they would have destroyed.
Look at this question that's on. I had to pull up I find it's action on the Facebook page. So I want to see what they're saying. Of course, I pull you guys up. That comment you just made, you said earlier as well.
Which one?
We're unable to separate party from politics or party from government. You said that before. So this person says, so when the government does not realize that Labour Party is different from the government of Dominica, does the guest have similar issues?
It is it's a huge
Are
error.
you saying, so you said it's a culture, well, I don't think you were referring to that, but are you saying across the board? Because you made it sound like, okay, the people who made those comments.
I'm dealing with a specific situation, but it is wrong for people to perceive that Labour Party and the government are so indivisible that one means the other.
But do you think that our government is not separating party and governance?
I will state that in some instances they should and they don't. In some instances that they should, they don't. And I will concede that. It, like I suggested, I'm the one that said cultural. It has become almost cultural to us. And that's what we hear. Listen, we're here to educate and let the chips fall where they may.
I really believe it's really hard. It's a thin line. I don't see separation sometimes.
You could say, honestly, Tanya, you could say it's a condition from governments that remain in power for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that. That is absolutely true. And the lines start to get blurry.
Blurry, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but it's not right.
But let me run into something, because now we're just freewheeling, right? We swim in freestyle.
You think we can take a break, guys? It's 6:28.
But let me just ask Kenny the question before we take the break.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, I've been hearing comments now that the CBI program is going to end. Now that there is almost what is it? An obituary that some persons have written.
Right.
You hear that, right, Tanya?
But somebody should talk for you, all kind of thing.
There is.
Sam, it's over.
So there is that. Let's talk about that, because I think that maybe people's desire to bring it to an end, it's clouding the reality that exists.
What is the reality?
The reality is the program is ongoing. The reality is the CBI program has always been under threat. The reality that it is under probably more threat now than it has been on normal times, but it has overcome some situations. And I wouldn't write the obituary of the CBI program now. I think it's an opportunity to continue to try to improve. We never 100% with whether due diligence or the priorities of the program. It's always time to renew and to huddle and to look to see what we're doing. But the CBI program is too big of an institution, too big a contributor to the economy and so on, for us to just let it go. And I think there are lots of interest in continuing it going. It's too significant. So I don't know, the dance. And I just want to clarify to the folks out there that seem to be
Sam,
already
get it in your tiny head. It's over.
That's funny. That's very, very funny. You have that.
I had to put it up when I saw it, man.
Take win. Whoever said that, take win. I have an affiliation with IMI Daily, which is the leading publication for citizenship programs. And there's two tiers in this discussion about CBI. There's the tier that exists in Europe, which have the golden visas, which is what has been referred to by the Americans in the recent act that has been brought up, and also in the European Parliament. These are the main areas that have been brought up, and the citizenship programs of the Caribbean have been mentioned almost as an afterthought, because we are the next in line, so to speak, with Schengen access. But the real target is the golden visas to start. And, Christian Nisham, who we had on the other day, pointed out, for example, in 2000, that you had 68,000 Moroccans, 50,000 Syrians, 40,000 Albanians, 28,000 Romanians, and 24,000 Brazilians get citizenship in the EU member state outside of citizenship programs, typically through refugee status coming through the borders, with zero due diligence. And internal to the EU, there's this debate that in that same year, only a few hundred individuals receive golden visas, and that's what's under attack. the fact is, it's not a simple discussion. It started, the recent flurry of activity started because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And that has created context for that. But it's not because the government of Dominica or the government of Antigua or the government of Grenada or St. Kitts or St. Lucia have been engaging in rogue behavior. We haven't. And that's very important to understand, that it's natural that all of this is going on because this idea about protecting borders is now a big deal. But I mean, even within the context of the Caribbean, we have an interesting thing going on. Antigua suspended access to Ukrainians and to Russians. Other countries only suspended access to Russians.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously in the current paradigm, it would be acceptable for a Caribbean citizenship program to process a Ukrainian. Obviously, you can't do due diligence now, so it's very, I mean, it's very dicey to start that process. But the idea that our citizenship programs are rogue programs and are being, you know, targeted to be shut down for that is not true. And funnily enough, most of the commentary that is being used in first world commentary about our programs is being adopted from the oppositions in the Caribbean. So they don't have their own prevailing view. They say the same things that our programs, the people in our countries are saying. And they're repeating it.
That's a natural thing.
And so it's interesting to me because we've gone through this cycle, and we've gone through this cycle from bananas, we've gone through it with offshore banking, offshore gaming, where there's never been a unified stance to say, you know what, I disagree with you on X, Y, and Z, but this thing is a hands off. We're going to protect it.
Maybe we should do when we come back, because we haven't
we're
taken
gonna take a break. Yeah.
So we will talk about the recent faux pas that has happened briefly with respect
what
to
faux pas is that?
the diplomatic faux pas with the recognition of
Oh,
Syria
okay.
and this
That's the only one.
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
No. I just
I'm busy
I
at
just
Jungle Bay
asking.
doing my
I
work.
don't know.
You're busy at Jungle Bay.
If you have other faux pas going on.
Listen, the line's blowing up. All you hold the lines. We'll get to you. I mean, we will try and open the lines a little earlier for the people, because you see, when you all start to talk and you see when we do have guests, whew,
Trouble.
they just want to talk to all you. They have to open up the lines and people express themselves.
I just with my partner from St. Thomas call.
Yes, and he's in white today, looking like Jesus. So
Thank you.
today
So
he's
is that-
praying.
Huh?
Is that?
Sam,
Oh,
today he's
okay.
praying, so he believes in God today. You can call him. Anyways, let's take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back.
Right here, right now, I put the offer out. I don't want to chase you down. I know you see it. You run with me, and I can cut you free out of the treachery and walls you keep in. So trade that typical for something colorful. And if it's crazy, live a little crazy. You can play it sensible, a king of conventional, or you can risk it all and see.
Don't you wanna get away from the same? Oh, part you gotta play, 'cause I got what you need, so come with me and take the ride. It'll take you to the other side, 'cause you can do like you do, or you can do like me. Stay in the cage, or you finally take the key. Oh, damn, suddenly you're free to fly. It'll take you to the other side.
Okay, my friend, you wanna cut me in, but I hate to tell you, but it just won't happen. So thanks, but no, I think I'm good to go, 'cause I quite enjoy the life you say I'm trapped in. Now I admire you, and that will show you do. You're onto something, really it's something. I live among the swells, and we don't pick up peanut shells. I have to leave that up to you.
Don't you know that I'm okay with this uptown part I get to play? 'Cause I've got what I need and I don't want to take the ride. And I need to see the other side, so go and do like you do. I'm good to do like me. Ain't in a cage, so I don't need to take the key. Oh, damn.
Welcome back to the other side, right here on the big station, Q95. We're just having open conversation. So open floor this evening. I don't know. I really liking it. We should do this more. I love in the comments on the Facebook page. Y'all have me cracking up. Y'all are so woo. Wow. Y'all speak your minds. I hope when the lines open up, you call and you keep it civil though. Right? So we're diving back in. We were talking about CBI. And I'm gonna give you all my honest opinion. Don't beat me up when you all see me come out of Q95.
You afraid them now?
No, I don't afraid nobody.
Okay.
Trust me, my back too broad for that. I'm not afraid. But guys, honestly, I feel like I have to agree with Sam and Kenny. CBI is not going anywhere. And I long past that. I long past all of that. What I want to know is what are we doing with the money from CBI? I brought this up when Vince was here. I feel like all our eggs are in one basket. So you see, when incidences like this happen now, people are like, oh my God, you know, like how I see it, you know, your jockeys get tight, your bamsy cheeks tight now. Like, what's going on? We shouldn't feel like that. We need to know what we're doing with the money from CBI.
These are legitimate.
Are we, you know, what other industries are we getting into? What's happening? That's all. You're looking at me with those eyes. Why are you looking at me so?
No,
I think it's a valid question. What's happening?
So to me, yeah, it's a valid question, but we have to start off. You said that the CBI isn't going to die, and off radio, off live, I pointed out the analogy or the similarity to the Cayman's offshore banking industry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Caymanian citizens and residents are unified in understanding that it is important to them. Now, there are some people, Caymanian locals, who feel that it is mainly foreigners who are getting the benefits of the offshore industry in Cayman. If you go to Cayman, I've been, not to open a bank account. If you go to Cayman, you'll find there's a high amount, especially funny enough, Canadians in Cayman. But the stereotype that exists for offshore banking has emanated around Cayman, even though you have jurisdictions like Switzerland and Delaware and Nevada and South Dakota and Jersey, which have just as much activity and even less standards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every time you watch a movie, you know, the whole mention of Cayman, you know, a criminal has kidnapped someone or whatever, send the money to the Caymanian offshore banking account, etc. That has been the brand that has been created. But the truth is that Cayman has the high standards for offshore management of funds, and that is why it has stayed alive. Meanwhile, Switzerland is still there.
But Tanya asked a question, and when people ask a question, you should answer them,
I'll
right,
be
Tanya?
honest, he's really answered my question. Even though we fight, you really get to the point with me, you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, but
I appreciate that.
okay. I'm just not used to getting compliments from Tanya, so please excuse me if
He's
if
blushing
I'm
right
shocked.
now, guys. Let me
Shocked.
tell you, something in
Okay,
red.
I'm shocked. Okay, so Tanya, basically the Prime Minister was on the program, and I asked him essentially, in a nutshell, the question for certainly the private sector investments. So I will ask you, you asked the question about other priorities. What else does the government need to do with the CBI funds that they're not doing? This is the discussion I think that should be advanced, because just to say what else is the government, what else should they be doing? In terms of the type of businesses that the government have approved under the CBI program, they've been hotels, and a number of people have complained that it's
I
overstaffed.
feel like
with
there's an
hotels.
emphasis there.
Emphasis on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good emphasis, because it's one of the sectors that I think that we still have a lot of room for growth in, and it's aligned to agriculture, the amount of stuff. I operate a hotel and I know what we purchase and so on. I think it's connected to other sectors of the economy. But what the Prime Minister said also on that point is they have to respond to the inquiries they get. And they are not getting people coming in with those proposals. And that is the problem. I can't beat up. I have a friend that won the lottery some time ago, not too long ago, you know, and he's doing well. I'm happy for him. But I can't say, you know, I should have won the lottery, because I don't play the lottery. You see, if you don't put something in there and you don't get an approval, you can't complain about the system. The Prime Minister stated he has not received a single application for anything agricultural or agro-processing. And the only thing other than the hotels that he's gotten is one that's under review as a water business. So I'm just telling you, that's on the record. We have that here.
But
So I answer.
I
So
think
what else
my
should the
question
government?
is,
What else should
the
the
money
government
that
be
goes
doing?
into the government fund,
Mhm.
like, what are we doing with it?
What should be done?
Let
Let me tell you what has happened with it. We have a number of infrastructure that was developed under the program. And I have some things
like
that
what,
I'm
the
going to
hospital?
the
Yes.
hospital,
Yes.
health centers,
Mhm.
a lot of the
And I
infrastructure,
think
a
the
lot of the
people
repair
appreciate
after, a lot of
all
the
of
repair
that.
after Tropical Storm Erica,
But let's
Hurricane
talk about
Maria,
things that can
the
make
NEP
money.
program. Okay, like what?
I think that's what
So
the
tell me
people are
what can make
concerned
money.
about.
Go ahead, tell me.
I mean, I may have my own opinions,
You
right?
should.
But
Let's hear your opinion.
others do, and
Let's hear your
I
opinion.
would like to say, I want to respond to what you said about Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt Vikas. He told me to call him that, so I always remember that.
Yeah.
He said that he wanted he wanted more proposals, right? But I'm speaking more about that money that goes into the fund and making our governance, the people who manage our money, making decisions as to what we can do with that money. That's not only going to, yes, I appreciate a better hospital. I do. I do. But I think people are looking at
But
ways that the economy can make money.
Can I jog your memory on something?
And let me just finish. And so, agriculture, like you said, you mentioned, the hotel industry being linked to agriculture, putting more money into that and helping the farmers and stuff like that. I see some things happening now. Yes, we talked about so many rivers, why we don't have water, really
But it comes down to the same thing.
What does it come down to?
It comes down, there are two paths to this. You ask a good question, which is what is being done with the money that comes into the government accounts. So when the Prime Minister was on, he made a concession that they really were not using the money for recurrent expenditure until after Maria. Okay? But after Maria, you remember the whole controversy about the airport account and the fact that they drained the money from the airport account to be able to deal with all of the post-Maria works and also with recurrent expenditure with salaries, because you're dealing with a situation where the country had no productive enterprise going on post-Maria, yet public servants never stopped getting paid. How did that happen? Because they dipped into those same funds. Now, the issue is that the government has made a bet on tourism. When people talk about hotels, it seems like you're doing hotels as part of an isolated platform, but hotels are only there to support the tourism industry.
Yes.
And you now have the airport going to be built. And guys, it is going to get built. So don't get yourself up in a bunch.
That's a whole other talk.
Yeah. So exactly. So
you like to put yourself in.
But the point that goes with that is that they've made a bet on tourism. Now, if that bet fails, then it's on the government. And that's where.
So why we have to go there?
How you mean? Why do
we don't want to go there? We don't want the bet to fail. We want to be prepared.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you look across the Eastern Caribbean, over the 400 projects that are run, there's been one non-tourism project. And that is the tilapia fish farm in Grenada, which has failed. So the question is, why aren't people coming forward with projects for other things besides tourism? That's not because.
So you're saying that people are only coming forward for tourism.
Correct.
But that's what the Prime Minister said.
But why our governance just can't be innovative? You all are innovative guys. Why not have ideas outside of?
Let me answer that question.
Infrastructure outside of buildings, a health center, of school, outside of those things. How can we make money?
You asked about making money, the productive sector, right? And that is something that entrepreneurs like Kenny, myself, and you decide that we're going to do. If we don't decide to do it, it doesn't get done. When we think about what we're going to do, we may have an idea. Okay, I'll open a manufacturing plant in Dominica. I'll make a mango juice because we have plenty of mango falling on the tree. We hear that all the time. When you get into the nuts and bolts of the feasibility, you find that there are so many challenges. Our cost of labor versus productivity, our cost of electricity. We have a very small market to transfer. When you get into the seasonality of the fruit and so on, you then realize maybe it sounded like a good idea, but maybe it's not such a good, so I'm not going to invest in it. And I think that is what is happening. And as a result of that, certainly tourism is one of the lowest hanging fruits because it's there. People want to come and enjoy what we have. And it's something that I tell you, a lot of people invest in, and it supports other sectors of the economy. We need a supply chain in tourism where, farmers can
sectors of the economy that not fully developed to even support
to
you.
support that. So we need.
So that's
we
what
need-
that's the point I'm
we
trying to
need.
make.
But Tanya, I do believe I'll go on record and say that I do believe that there is a path, and Kenny has proposed this entrepreneur visa program
Yes, I
where
remember
I do
that.
believe that there should be a path, and I'll go on record and say that if possible, to diversify the investments in the economy as much as possible. I do believe that we should seek to do that. The Prime Minister, when he came here, he extended that, and it doesn't happen overnight. So hopefully, more and more people out there will put their proposals together and come with something innovative. You use the word innovative. Come with something innovative and let the government say
But Sam,
no.
there is one thing.
yes.
There's a caution in this. You
Mhm.
can fail. You can fail. There are people in the CBI business, in the projects, who have failed. And I think people, Tanya, need to understand that there's risk. And it's not going to be about just getting easy money. And I think that's part of the problem. There are lots and lots of failures. And there are.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying because it is so true. Even some people that want to get into tourism, some people that contact me, well, how can I get in that CBI thing? It's like there's a pot of gold somewhere and you just tell me so I can push my hand in it. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. And we've kind of explained the process and the challenges and the risk that's involved.
Sam, I wish you
But
didn't say
some
that.
people still believe that it's a pot of gold out there and just push your hand in it and scare it, say you can take and you can't take. And some people believe that that's what it is. I'm telling you. That's what
You're the person laughing.
But
over
that's
there.
real talk.
Because you're going to get fired for that.
Laughing 'cause
Watch,
you know.
you're going to get fired for that.
But it's true.
Because I mean, come on, guys.
Tanya, honestly. At least we
Tell
can
us.
agree on that. I'm trying to be reasonable.
Okay, so I mentioned this before, and that is real talk. That is real talk. I mentioned it before. There's a Caribbean jurisdiction that has over 100 projects. Only 2 have been completed. 2 out of over 100. What do you think happened to the others? As we say in our vernacular, they coulé. And that's a problem because you don't. The one of the reasons why the citizenship program in Dominica has been relatively successful on the project side is because we have less projects than everyone else.
Look, somebody asked a question.
Mhm.
So why are all these projects Labour Party operatives?
What do you mean they're Labour Party?
That's what the person asked. I don't know. I ask any questions. That's what I do, right? Why are they Labour Party operatives?
I hardly think that when I was approved for the CBI program, I was a Labour Party operative. I was the furthest thing from that.
Really?
So I think if the people that apply that have what the government would deem viable projects, they approve. How many non-Labour Party operatives, if you call yourself that name, have applied and have been rejected? That's the thing. If you do not apply and do not seek to apply, then you cannot be approved. I don't think the government can go and say you approve, but you didn't apply.
Maybe I'm not so
These are very
good with
exhausting.
communicating stuff like you
No, but these
guys.
are
I don't know all those big words and stuff. But what I just trying to say is, why can't we get other things besides a hospital?
Okay,
Let's create things that people could go and work and make money and stuff. Let's trickle down that CBI money. That's what we want. That's what we want to do.
I think there's a very good point. As Sam said, the RBI that I've proposed and is going through the process right now will have a different slant. But the truth is, people have to understand that there's a tremendous amount of risk in this. And whether you're going to try and do a manufacturing plant, I think the head of the CBI talked about somebody's going to do a bottle watering.
It has to be viable.
It has to be
a viable business venture. And that's something that I don't think that we kind of understand. We just say those things. You see a Sam having a jungle bay, you think, oh boy, everybody can do it. That you make it look simple. I see Tiger Woods hit a golf ball. I play golf. I mean that looks simple. And he making how much? He's a billionaire playing. I can do that. Really, and it's not so easy, And I think that's part of the challenge. And people see things happening and they figure they're not in it. And for some reason, but whether it's the RBI and you finding investors and you're matching them with projects, the projects have to be governed properly. They have to be viable. And that is a major problem that people don't seem to understand.
Yeah. I just think, when we choose people to lead us, I think it's important that, you come with innovation as well. And
But the population has to be able to approach. And what Sam is saying is true. If you infer that only one set of people are eating our food, show that you tried to eat at the table and you were rejected.
but I don't think that you're laughing, but I don't think that means that those persons who make those comments did not try. Who are you to say that? No, you are
That's true.
inferring. You are
That's true.
inferring.
That's true. That's a
You
good
don't know
point.
everything.
That's a good point. That's a very good
Okay.
point. I don't
So
know.
I think a lot of people may have tried. And as I always say, there are plenty failure, right?
Well,
Hopefully they fail for the right reasons.
well,
I don't know. But the point is, I just feel like when we managing our vibes, I going down,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I expect the innovation, I know you have your hotel there, Sam, right? And I'm sure you sit and you think about innovative ideas to give your
Every day, all day.
managers and stuff. Maybe we should do this to make more money. Maybe if we put the money across there. And that's what I think people are looking for,
We're in an international world now. When DCP got sold to Colgate, the first sign of difficulty, Colgate bailed.
Mhm.
When Kubuli got sold to, I believe it's Seversio out of Dominican Republic, when Kubuli, the BBL, came under stress from Erica, they bailed, they left. Those are not local companies who were bailing specifically on the population. They were international companies who had decided this was no longer worth their while and they were not going to take the further risk. People talk about Ross. It wasn't Ross who left Dominica, it was Ad Talem. We have this relationship with Ross, but Ad Talem were a different owner. And they threw DeVry under the bus in the same way that they did Dominica. You can go look it up. And so this is a new world and people have to be able to approach. I appreciate what you said is true. It's difficult to infer that people have not tried.
Mhm.
But the process, I know, is extremely difficult because you have to be able to show that you have the means and the capability to be able to finish
I
the
wasn't
job.
really talking about that side of it. I talking about the money that go in the government fund. Can the government put it into other innovative ideas that are going to make the economy turn?
So
That's
Tanya,
all I was saying.
Tanya,
But-
I will say to I think to the best of their ability, whether it
Yes.
is to your ability, they're doing that to the best. It
I
may not be
get that.
satisfied. So the other people who find that they are not doing it well enough, that's what oppositions are there for,
Yes.
right? And so that's why, unfortunately, we don't have that relationship as we should, where there should be, I think, less tension and it should be more civil.
True.
But then other people should be able to come in and show up the government that if I were running the government, I would be doing this, that, and the other, and I think this is what gives people the confidence to think, if I put these guys in office, I'm going to be better off because they have better suggestions.
Mhm.
They have better ideas. I know they've demonstrated even outside of office, they can do things. And so my future is going to be brighter. Politics is a very simple thing, It's just at election time, on election day, who do you think you will be better off with over the next 5 years? It's that simple. We seem to make
But
it
you're
into
going to
something.
make it a thing of another option. It's not about another option. There is a government there now.
Mhm.
And I believe
I told you
that
they're doing their best. So
Yes,
if they're not doing,
I understand
and no
that.
government is perfect, and they're doing a
And the-
lot of things.
And the history of governments engaging in direct productive sectors is very bad.
Let me throw something in that I'm going to take this off, and then maybe we can talk about the diplomatic faux pas, and then we can maybe open up the lines. One of the
Yeah.
suggestions I have, because we have, for persons who are interested in getting into the CBI program as developers of projects, the Prime Minister did intimate that, and I'm sure persons out there are preparing their packages. One of the things that I would suggest, especially in light of seeing the upheavals we have now with the CBI program, we say it ain't going anywhere, but it will eventually go away. It will eventually at some point, or things are going to affect it. It is important to think beyond just the CBI financing when you do your project, okay? Because you do not want to be left depending solely on the CBI monies and if something goes south. So this is what, from my experience, I will share, because my original Jungle Bay project was CBI funded. That CBI went south because the government came in 2000 and shut the program down, and they had to make adjustments. I did not get to do it through the CBI program after that, and the history of the loan and whatever it is. I had to raise other outside funds to complete that project. So for me, entering into an agreement like this, where your primary source of financing is something that may be vulnerable, I would just caution the persons out there who are seeking to get into it to consider a secondary option in the unlikely event, or in the event that you are unable to complete it under the CBI program.
So that sound like to me. Come and check Sam.
No. Don't check me at all. But I'm just saying.
But that's it.
I'm just
we have to then find those individuals like you and Kenny.
No, there are lots of people out
others,
there.
yes, and others who willing to invest, because you all made it. You all are there, and you all can help the others. And that's how people see. And I think that's why there are no successes with that. Because you just tell me, if I don't get through with CBI, I have to find another way.
but
maybe I didn't have another way.
No, I didn't tell you that. I told you, if you get through with CBI,
but
you didn't listen. If you get through with CBI, also think of other options in the unlikely event. Then that's a problem. I'm just saying, but you can you proceed at your own risk. I'm telling you.
There
are
a lot of assumptions. People assume that those of us who are in the business are success. We are working as hard and keeping up as
we're working at it.
We're working at it.
My grandmother said when she didn't have food to feed her children. No,
you are Sam Raphael.
I'm telling you. Yeah, but my grandmother taught me when she didn't have food to feed her children, she used to go and take seasoning. Belviche, where I'm from, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of seasoning, Sivan. So she said she would take seasoning, put in a cold pot and stir it, and they say, my Johnny, always have good food to feed. Always have good food. Because she knows it's show business, and you have to present yourself as a success.
Correct.
So when you walk in an institution, or Tanya now is convinced I'm a success. I could be broke as hell, but Tanya, I've been able to convince her, and a lot of it is that.
Telling me fake it to make it.
Well, if you have to, I'm a broke guy, Tanya.
Fake it to make it. That's the advice from our businessman on the panel today. Fake it to make it.
You have to project success if you're going to be success. It's not fake it to make it. You have to project success if you're going to be a success.
But you make a very, very good point earlier about what about doing different things. Now, all of the citizenship programs in the Eastern Caribbean use the same model. I'm not talking about just the tourism, the way they raise the funds. They have specific paths, the donation, the real estate, the agents have to go to raise the money, etc., etc.
Yeah, we ran out of time.
Yeah. So the last set of companies who've tried something different, especially in Europe, have run afoul. And
I'd like the audience to know Tanya keeps talking, and I'm trying to get us to take some calls. Tanya, what about our callers?
Yeah, make me look like a bad guy. After he done long talk, guys, you know what? That faux pas thing, boy, they would love to talk about that. I know, but we run out of time.
We come on. It's the news now.
But
and
can you do 5 minutes?
I'm not going to do 5 minutes. It's less than. Can you go ahead? Less than.
You sure?
Let's start.
Let Kenny do it.
Let's start.
Tell us about Lorraine.
Okay, so this isn't just about Lorraine. It's actually a faux pas, but it is refreshing in a way. We criticize, especially unrightly, Caribbean governments for not being open about communicating what went wrong, and also in not taking responsibility. So you'll have something happen, no one says anything, no one resigns. In this case, the Prime Minister came forward and gave a clear statement, and at the same time produced a course of action that is resulting in the removal of someone who everyone who's associated with politics knows is someone who has been loyal to the Labour Party and to the government. So it could not have been an easy decision. Now, whether there's an alternative side talking about whether there's a cover-up or something wrong, just bear in mind that that statement and the things that happened are very public. And they're not just public to us, they're public to partners, using a particular euphemism, to partners of Dominica at an international level. So this isn't something that has been done lightly. So if there's an alternative approach to seeing this, it still doesn't take away from the fact that a clear statement was made, and someone has taken accountability or made to be accountable for the situation. And that to me is as good a step as we can have right now.
I think Kenny, all of us, all the people that I've talked to, I haven't met someone that thought that it was a good idea. So I think we can all acknowledge that the diplomatic relations with Syria, especially at this time,
Was bad.
is not a good idea. And it happened without the ambassador, and she's someone I respect and I like, and I'm sure in her mind and in her heart she was doing it because she thought that that was a good thing to do for Dominica, because she's been hustling for the country. I know her here, I know her in St. Thomas, I know her hustling with Dominicans all over the place. So she's been doing that. Unfortunately, sometimes in our zeal to do things, we make mistakes. And as a result of the mistake, it has caused Dominica some difficulty. The Prime Minister has taken corrective action, which led to her immediate discontinuing of her duties on the day of the meeting, with her resignation to be effective on a certain date. Of course, you have matters you have to close out. She may have had leave, whatever it is. But the reality is that she was no longer in the position after that point. We have to just not just beat up on her as such, but people sacrifice for this country, and we thank them for the service. When you have employees like I do, often you have situations where they may run on their own momentum, like this ambassador did, and things go wrong.
That makes me think about due diligence again.
It's what due diligence? We can all make mistakes, Tanya.
You
can make a mistake.
Tanya,
have you ever been fired from a job, Tanya? Did they do due diligence on you when they fired you?
Getting aggressive with me, no.
But it's a reality.
No, but it just makes
Remember,
that's
remember
a strange thing. Like, why would she do that?
Tanya, you would have to ask her yourself. But based
That's
on
who I
her,
wish she had a response.
Based on her
Why
past,
would you do that?
Tanya, let me
Just
give you
so,
one.
just so.
Let me give you one suggestion. Okay, the Dominica has been trying, and all countries try to get as much visa-free access, generally speaking. And that's good for the country. That's good for our citizens traveling and so on. A request came from a country. It happened to be Syria. And, action was taken to grant visa-free access. She didn't do it and hide. She did it, and it was even publicized, because in her mind, it was a good thing to do for Dominica. It ended up not being such a good thing to do for Dominica, and that's basically what happened. The Prime Minister, asked her for a resignation because it's something that was pretty serious, and he needs to correct some things there and take corrective action. So for me, the issue has been dealt with. I think for the average Dominican too, maybe not the average hardcore, that listens and on cue and so on. But I think the average rational person, it's not the first time in the history of countries where ambassadors have gone rogue, so to speak. I'm not saying this person is rogue, but they have gone outside of the momentum of the capital. It's not the first time, and this has happened before. So I think it's time to move on from this. Unless we have more information, it's just a lot of speculation. What if
You think she was just trying to be efficient at her job?
I think she was doing her job to the best of my knowledge. I don't think that she had any malice in that. She would have to come and explain that.
Yeah, she would have to.
So you just decided to do something you're not supposed to do.
What's clear is that in the ecosystem of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there exists a wide range of people, because public servants have been involved. Whenever things like talk of cover-ups, etc., happen, you have to take into consideration that this statement has been made is too public, and the entire episode too clear for there to be ambiguity. In other words, somebody can break this entire story if it wasn't true. Okay.
Let's open up the lines, people. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097. And if you're overseas, I'd love to hear from you. 305-432-9624. We talk CBI. We talk about Laureen. Come on, man. Give us a call. Give us a call. Let's hear what you got. Oh, my. It's already blowing up. You're live on Q95, the other side.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. I thought I wasn't hearing anything.
Yes. I realize I'll quote Bertrand Russell every program you have.
You like it?
But I have a quote of Bertrand Russell. I'm aware of Bertrand Russell.
Oh, Lord, let me hear.
As his contribution to human creative is redhead. And I want to quote that quote of his. He said patriots always talk of dying for the country, but never of killing for the country. That is one of his most famous quotes.
Mm.
Now, secondly, I want to say to the talk.
We missed
I
what you
realize-
said. We missed that.
Hello?
Sorry. We
Yes.
missed a part of it. Say that again.
If we talk of due diligence
Mm-hmm.
and giving people to sell passports, first of all, Mr. Sam Raphael, for personal use, your experience is for loans from passport sales and your situation, refusing to pay for a previous loan. I find that is high malfeasance. For you to qualify under due diligence, look at you they never due diligence with you in getting another set of passport to sell while you're owing the state development bank. I find that is highly despicable of you for you to be talking in that way and defending this situation. That is highly despicable.
Okay,
Give
thank you.
Sam a chance to reply.
Thank you, caller.
Sam, you
Caller,
respond?
thank you for sharing the information that is made available to you. You just don't happen to be correct. And so I don't know. The courts decided, not me, not you, that I don't owe this money. So how can you now say that I owe? I don't know. I would have to be the crazy person, Kenny, if I take you to court and you win the judgment, for me to say, okay, let me pay you anyway. It doesn't make sense. So the court is a final arbiter, and if in our society, that's what we rely on. I had my arguments. Obviously, the other side had, for whatever reason,
But
we prevailed.
But let's make it clear, you're not the only person.
Oh
who
no,
fell
there
under
were
that
several.
judgment.
There were several other people there, but I want to get to that. And then the second thing, my friend, is when you do business, due diligence is not just whether someone had paid a loan or had paid a loan. Due diligence has to be with the successful track record of that person operating. And I know you wouldn't question my successful track record as a business person. So it is not something that should be questioned, even by those who don't support me.
All right.
So if you are in fact looking to build the country, you would want to build the country using those persons that have a successful track record. And my successful track record in operating business is there. If you wish to challenge it, feel free to do
Let's
so.
take another
I'd like,
call.
yeah.
Sorry, let's
Go
take
ahead. No, let's go with the call.
Let's go. You're live on the other side.
Hello, good night.
Speak up, please.
I wonder how you all are educating people. If you take a loan in the bank of $6 million, it doesn't matter what high hell or hair loan you have to pay it. If you don't pay it, you are a thief. That is what it is. And number two, if you buy a dog for $6 million and you buy another dog for about $20 million, you expect them to back for you. That is it.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Well, if you want a quick answer on that, I did not take a loan from the government bank or any bank for $6 million. I signed on to a citizenship by investment program where I was authorized to raise the funds. I raised a portion of the funds that I was authorized to raise. The program got shut down before I got to complete the project. And, there was some back and forth.
Try that first line for me.
Yeah, and so by the way, Kenny just reminded me, I will be on this station tomorrow at 1:00.
Brave.
I will be interviewed by
Why?
the one and only Sean Douglas.
Yeah, asking for that.
He called me cunning, he said I'm a cunning fella. So I don't know, he may be taking me down. So my friend, listen up. This may be your great day when you take me down with these cunning questions. But I don't know. So in terms of this loan, and I'm sure Sean is going to speak to this. So
Yeah.
maybe we can get on with the other issues of public
I want to take
interest.
that first line, but I missed it again. Look at coming in. That first line. Yes, I want that one. Caller, you're live.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Talk to us.
Actually, I'm Sam. How are you, Sam?
Hey,
Hey,
that's
what's
your,
up?
that's
That's
your
my
friend.
partner, man.
Yes,
I asked
man.
about you earlier,
Sam,
Uh-huh.
you good?
I'm good, brother.
Talk
Okay,
to
I have a
us.
question for you, Sam.
Please.
I have a question for you, Sam.
Mhm.
I'm actually going to pull on this side to talk to you.
Mhm.
So let me ask you, Sam. Selling passport is that a crime?
Selling passport, as far as I'm concerned, is an illegal act. Mhm.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. So, how about the passport that was sold to Susan Oldie for $400,000? Now, I have another question for Kenny.
Make
Kenny,
it quick,
earlier
caller.
on, I heard you made
Huh?
Go ahead, make
I
it
heard you
quick.
made a compare. You compare and contrast Earl Williams being elected as UWP leader in contrast to Volley like Madwiki, Volley like Montforret. Kenny, you are ridiculous to make that compare and contrast.
Can you
And
just stick a pin in it? Stick a pin in it. I made the contrast on the basis of due diligence and the blame being put on someone who appointed a person in good faith on the basis of their character. So the similarity is that Ali Reza Monfared, at the time that he was appointed, had both a working Schengen visa and a US visa and had the third highest award from Malaysia. And the UWP appointed Earl Williams their leader, and he ran away from the country because of allegations against him. In neither case was it the fault of the government of Dominica that Ali Reza Monfared turned rogue, or the UWP in that Earl Williams ended up having to abscond from the country. That's the similarity. And if you don't get that, my friend, you need to go and buy the $6 million dog from the person who called earlier.
Let me continue now. Let me say to you, are you aware that the government of Dominica knew Aliza Montferrat was a killer, was a damn thief?
All right,
and they
that's
were
the last
hiding
question
in
for you for the night.
Montreal?
Okay, we'll answer you. Thank
Huh?
you, caller. We'll answer you. Were you aware he was a damn thief?
Of course not. Go
Okay.
on. The next question.
Let's take another call. You're live on the other side.
Good evening, Tanya,
Good evening.
and good evening to Sam and Kenny.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Sam and Kenny, will you please have some respect for the intelligence of Dominicans and don't treat them like the people who following who are so gullible that everything they hear coming from the Labour Party, they believe it. Sam, you talk about FOPA. What kind of FOPA? I forget how Kenny Green call it. You talk about FOPA on behalf of the ambassador. Sam, you are a businessman. And if the manager of your hotel make a mistake with one of your guests, and the guests become so upset that they threaten they're going to when they go back to America or wherever they're from, they're going to tell them about how shabby you're treating guests. You're going to fire the manager, Sam. You will fire the manager.
Thank you, caller.
And you're talking about FOPA.
Okay, caller. Thank you. And that
But-
was that. Let me just add to that. And that's when I asked you about due diligence. I brought it back up because I feel like if you work for me,
Mhm.
I'm going to monitor you. I don't like to micromanage you
Mhm.
because I hired you and I believe in your skill.
Mhm.
But I'm going to monitor you. So I feel like if I am the manager and I've been monitoring you, I should know what you're doing,
Okay.
right? I should know that you're trying to establish relations,
but sometimes
these
you,
diplomatic relations with this guy. How could I just be like, what
Tan-
you doing there now?
well, I happen to be a manager.
I just surprised all of a
Tanya,
sudden.
I have been managing for 30, 40 years at least. And as well as you think you're a good manager, you're going to
Yes.
end up with situations
Agreed.
where employees are going to take action that is not consistent
Agreed.
with it. And that's what happens. And
Maybe we need to get, you know what we need to get?
following the gentleman's
Maybe Kenny might know.
intimation, that happened. And I had a situation where somebody stole something from me. Okay?
Right.
They stole. And I made the decision. This doesn't happen often. I pointed and I called for them to immediately resign, and they did. Now, I could have fired them.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have fired them. But I balance it out and I say, I think the first thing you do, usually in business, is you tell the person, you did this, resign. And this is standard
Sam,
procedures.
you off topic.
No,
You
no, no.
off topic.
But
It's not
I'm
about
answering the
how you're
gentleman's
dealing. No,
question.
it's not about how you're dealing. He's not speaking. I don't think
What
he's
is he
speaking
speaking
about,
about? Because
how
my
you're dealing with the
understanding-
individual after the incident has occurred. They're speaking about you as a manager. You know, you're gonna be keeping an eye on your
But
staff
Tanya,
as much as you
it doesn't
can.
matter if you are running
That
a
is
country.
why I feel it's important to find
you all
out.
have
Yeah,
calls,
but
right?
you know
No,
what?
no,
I
no,
want to
no.
post you, and
But-
you should tell me after the show.
Kenny, let me
I think
clarify.
it's important to find out how this thing works
Let me-
when it comes to
Tanya-
establishing diplomatic
Tanya,
relations.
okay.
Is it that letter is sent to my boss, who may be the PM and the Minister of Foreign Affairs? What happens before this young lady, I call her young lady, she looks really nice. I saw a picture of her. Before Lauren can just say, well, I go in and establish this
First of
thing?
all, I'm not in a position to answer that. That's
But
the
is it a good
protocol.
question? I'd love to know the protocol.
Like we say,
protocols.
we are not in that
Okay.
situation. And so I will point out your back to your question, the manager is ultimately responsible. But if you are managing a country, you have
Yes.
so many ministries, you have so many departments, you have so many embassies, you have so how is it that you're expected to know everybody's mind, whatever?
Agreed,
It doesn't
Sam.
make
But
sense.
Sam, it also
so if somebody
you
makes a
also
mistake,
have
you
to
take corrective
understand in
action,
a
and
role
that's
like
it.
that, it is going to come back at you. It's just
And it-
natural,
Yeah, it's
and-
right? It's
and-
natural.
and Tanya,
We're
but-
going to be looking to you
and
to ask
Tanya,
you,
it
hey,
did come
were
back,
you
and
being
the-
responsible? Were
it
you
did
doing
come
what you had
back,
to
and
do?
the prime minister took action
Very
after
good.
it came back, and
Good.
that's it.
Let's take the calls. That's one. Yeah. You're live. Hello, you're live on the
Hello,
other
good
side.
Yeah, it looked like these guys on the program are not living in Dominica. It just seems like they know what happened in Dominica, or they choose to say what they want and not what the people want to hear. A matter of fact, one of the guy talk about who are Madwike and Corallo and these guys were good citizens in their country. I don't have a visa to go to America and whatever before they get our passport. These people, what they do is try to invade, try to run away from their country, to use, already they do their crime, but they were trying to get passport to go to another country. That's how they end up with the Dominican citizenship. And they didn't just have a normal passport, diplomatic passport that they had. And this guy sitting there and pretending like all is well. All is not well. They know the fact. Come out, some man, you know better than that, and tell the people, educate the people, stop lying to the people.
Okay, thank you, caller. Let's take this other caller.
But I want to touch on
Okay,
one
go
thing
ahead.
that he said, and it keeps coming up, that we know better, we're not living in Dominica and so on. You have two Dominicas. One Dominica listen to Q95, and the other Dominica listen to Kyrie FM.
And some of us just don't listen to nothing.
And some people don't listen to
Right.
anything at all.
Okay.
So my friend,
See, I think
let me get
watch
to my
how
point.
you say these things,
no,
because that's how it comes across. As you
Okay.
kind of bringing us like
But
we don't have a,
but let me make
we
my
beat
point.
intelligence,
Tanya,
Sam.
at least allow me to make my point. and then
Okay.
we-
I love it when you're fighting.
No,
This
but
is
he
more
does.
normal.
He made a comment before, and I said, "Wow," he didn't hear me. Because I'm telling you, it can come across
No,
very
but
condescending sometimes.
There are people who are in the middle, but
yes,
but,
there are people
but
who
Sam,
say,
but
"Boy,
Sam,
burn them
Sam,
radio station. I'm
Sam,
going to have my own
Sam,
opinion."
Tanya, that is
Let
not
Sam
even
make
my
his point. Let him
Please
make his
allow
point.
me.
No,
We
but
talk
I
about
still want to
civility.
tell him
Let us
about
be
it.
civil.
I'm
What-
being civil.
What did I say that was so offensive?
I can't remember now, but I said, "Wow." I'm sure you heard me say, "Wow."
But I don't. You don't remember what
In
you
that
said.
little
No.
time,
Don't try that, Oli. Don't try that with me. You
Tanya,
go
Tanya,
ahead.
I'm making. Please allow me to make the point,
I'm
and then you can
listening.
beat up on me.
the
There are there are people who listen exclusively to Q95. They talk in UWP circles, and this is everything UWP in terms of the spin on things. That's the reality to them. There are also people who are living conversely in the Labour Party circle, and everything Labour Party is in their circle on their radio station. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, no
echo
problem.
chamber.
And therefore, to my friends over there who's calling us in this is we are strangers in this house. That's why we call it the other side, because we believe that it is important that we not talk about each other, that we not curse each other, that we talk to each other and share. As ridiculous as you think our point of view is and what we say is, there is that reality. And also, maybe the other stations would engage in this also, and other people, and you'd have more conversation and civility. So that is the point. So my friend, I take your point. I know you've been getting bombarded with this narrative over and over, and it seems like you have 10 fingers in your hand, because that's as real as it is to you. But sometimes the things that we hear repeated and we believe aren't true, and that's my point.
Okay, let's take another call. You're live on the other side.
Yes, good evening
Good
to
evening.
you, the show host, and good evening to Mr. Sam Raphael and to Kenny Green.
Good evening. Good evening.
Now, before I start, I think I must make it very clear that I think both Sam and Kenny are being disingenuous. First of all, when they talk about due diligence, I would like Sam and Kenny to explain what due diligence is because they don't seem to know. If you're in a financial institution and you are the compliance officer responsible for due diligence, and you had these incidences of persons in having accounts in those institutions with the kind of criminal activity that they were prosecuted and sentenced to jail, and you all forget lapsing. I don't know why you're not mentioning lapsing. The chief compliance officer would be fired. They would be dismissed. They're the first person who would be fired. Now, the other thing that surprises me with Sam and Kenny is that Sam and Kenny pretending that they don't know the protocol for establishing diplomatic relations with any country. It is not up to any ambassador. And if Kenny and Sam trying to make that point, they need to will and stop thinking that Dominicans are so jackass that they don't believe that.
Thank you, caller, very
Thank
much.
you, caller. Your last point is absolutely correct. That is not, and that's why she was fired. That's basically or asked to resign.
No, but,
so you answered your question.
I guess he's
That
back
is
in.
not the-
He's going to what I said earlier, and I don't think you all heard me. What is the protocol? And he's saying, do not pretend that you all do not know the protocol. That's why I said I want to ask you guys, do you know the protocol for establishing relations?
And I said I don't know the
you
protocol.
don't know. Okay, so they said they don't know.
Maybe he.
I will have to do some
let me
research on
follow
that.
up on that.
I'd like to
No,
get
no,
that.
Kenny, we don't need to.
Yeah.
The statement that was released from the Prime Minister outlines the protocol for establishing diplomatic relations.
Could you repeat it for us?
The statement that was issued by the Prime Minister outlines the protocols for establishing diplomatic relations. So people just get the statement. It is stated there.
Okay.
That's the first one.
So the first question about due diligence. I recognize the voice, and again, that person is conflating the diplomatic appointments with the CBI program. The two are not the same. Diplomatic appointments did not, previous to the Montferrat situation until which it changed, did not have to go through the CBI due diligence, which is a very taxing and strenuous due diligence platform. That is why Dominic has gotten so many visa-free relationships with different destinations, because we are not a threat.
Give him a quick outline of, because he said he wants to know the due diligence. Explain to him what the due diligence process.
So the due diligence process, there's like 4 companies. There's Exeger, which used to be IPSA, Thomson Reuters, Refinitiv, Bishops, and a couple other companies who are paid independently to do due diligence on behalf of the government of Dominica.
Yes.
The form that it takes, from the different people have to do declarations of their source of funds. They have to be able to submit bank statements from their last applicable bank. They have to produce police records. They have to do blood tests for their medical records, and they have to do fingerprints. And they have to do, everything has to be apostilled and notarized so that they are declarations under law, so that if they lie, then that they are liable to be cited for that.
Okay.
And so that process then happens, and then the due diligence agencies send people on the ground or have contractors on the ground in each of the different countries, and they go in, they check the registry, they check the birth certificates, they check all of the details of the applicant. A report is then done. That report is sent back to the Caribbean, but there's also the JRCC, which sits in Barbados, which is the Joint Regional Security Apparatus. They do an independent due diligence because the passport is a CARICOM passport as well. So in order for Trinidad, for example, to be comfortable about letting that person be able to come in to their country under the same CARICOM statutes, the JRCC then runs that person versus the CARICOM database and Interpol. Typically, they use the Interpol and the FBI and whoever the other.
So there's no way there can be some breach.
You can never say there's no way, Tanya.
Okay.
There's a way.
So I think that's important to
There's
keep
always
in
a risk,
mind.
but it has been minimized with
Right.
this process.
Yes.
realistically.
Let's take another call because we're running out of time. Call you live on the other side.
Hey, blessings to you all. What's up?
Nothing
Hey,
much.
blessings.
Sam, Kenny, and Tanya. So, Kenny, you mean to tell me it is the opposition that caused the U.S. and the Europe to stop taking our bananas, if when this European doesn't have a mind of their own, because we are living in a bubble, in a cocoon, in our safe zone, so they have no information about what is happening in our hemisphere. And they only listen to what the opposition say to conclude what is happening in Dominica. I know
I never said that. I said
no. Listen to what you said. The whole propaganda about passport and everything. These people do not make up a mind of their own, like they have information. Is what the opposition say they're saying. So I'm saying, even our bananas, the demise of our bananas, you mean to tell me is what they hear the opposition say that causing to kill our bananas?
No. The bananas was a different situation.
No,
the bananas, I'll tell you example what happened with the bananas, because I want you to understand the difference between the two. In the time of the bananas.
Thank you, caller.
In the time of the bananas, the then Prime Minister, Eugenia Charles, was asking the farmers of Dominica to diversify away from bananas because she saw it coming. And she saw it coming because there was intense lobbying happening by Chiquita Dole, who had the ear of the Republican Party. Bob Dole was the leader of the Republican Party back then. He had a good relationship with Carl Nittner and Bill Clinton. And they were lobbying hard. And so Eugenia Charles said, let's try and get out of bananas because this won't last long. And the opposition at the time saw political headway to be made by saying, you guys are being fooled. Do not get out of bananas. We're going to pay you, in fact, more, per the banana that you're getting right now. And that was what happened. And all I said was that just like offshore banking, because in the offshore banking time, the opposition Labour attacked the UWP for the way it managed the offshore banking at the time, and the FATF closed down, blacklisted Dominica at the time. And I said that there has to come a time when there's an agreement by all parties that at least some aspect of something that's part of our development is off limits for criticism.
All right.
That's all.
Well, people, 7:28, huh?
Next week we have, folks, we're going to have as our special guest, the Minister for Agriculture.
Mr.
And this
Fidel
is
Grant, yeah?
And Mr. Fidel Grant, he's agreed to come and talk to you with us. So we are looking forward. I know there's a lot of talk about agriculture, and we can certainly have a good conversation.
But Sam,
with Fidel.
tomorrow you are going to be in the hot seat.
Yes, he's going to be on a hot
Sean
seat,
Douglas.
guys.
You're on your own. You don't have Tanya to protect you.
And I don't have you there. Come with me, now, Kenny.
No, I can't.
Oh, yeah, come with me.
That's what I'm going to be.
Leave the fixed shabbing at home.
And leave the regular girl at home. Okay.
Yeah, thank
Anyway,
you,
guys, thanks for joining us this evening on the other side. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, right here on the big station, Q95.
Right here, right now.
The Global View on Q, the big station. Insights into where the people of Dominica and the Caribbean came from. Understanding our past. Embracing our present. Charting the way forward into our future. Together, eliminating poverty. Embracing justice, peace, and togetherness. The Global View on Q. Networking Dominica with the rest of the world. The experts are in the house. From Dominica, Canada, the Caribbean, the United States, Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world. Engaging all Dominicans at home and abroad on our agriculture, our economy, our foreign relations, our justice system, our governance, our international competitiveness, our education, our world-class festivals and entertainment, sports, politics, regional cooperation,